Hi, everybody. I'm back. Here we are. I just did my top five Van Morrison records earlier this week, and I thought, strike while the iron is hot. I'm actually still feeling like making videos for now. Sort of got over the shyness and the trepidation that went with waiting so incredibly long between them. So this is my top 10 classic hard rock and heavy metal title tracks. I got this idea from, I think it was Sea of Tranquility. Cheers, everybody. And I don't know if they came up with it on their own or somebody had seen it, but I thought I'm gonna go ahead and try this. I've had this written down for a long time, and then I started the video and realized, there was one in there that I loved it, but I'm just going to replace it with something I love even more. So, excuse me. I have all CD covers except for one vinyl record because I don't have the CD of it. A couple of these I've got the CDs and not the vinyl, and CDs are just easier. And so I took them out of the case so that way there won't be quite as much glare. In my office where I'm recording this, I have a big window out to the street. So anyway, I'll quit blathering on about the mundane, and we'll get right to it. Now this ended up being tougher than I thought because I was able to pick them with some ease, but then, before the video, ranking them, holy cow, how do you? So, none of these is necessarily lesser than the other. This is just my preference, for what I like best. So coming in at number 10, and this could be your number one. I don't know, maybe you don't even like these guys. Going all the way back to the second album that Zakk Wylde did with Black Label Society, we're going to go Stronger Than Death. It's just, I count Black Label as sort of a classic hard rock metal band, really, no hard rock about it. Because Zakk had this is just a heavier version of Ozzy, really, and when he went back to Ozzy after doing some Black Label stuff, it showed very much. So anyway, just a crushing title track. His vocals on here were brutal. They actually had a live album from this tour called Alcohol Fueled Brutality that was not necessarily the best recorded, but it was a very honest look at that tour. So anyway, number 10, Stronger Than Death, Zakk Wylde and Black Label Society. Number 9, this may rank higher on some of your lists, but it made my top 10. It enjoyed a resurgence because of a TV show a while back, and it's Master of Puppets by Metallica. And this is my favorite of the 3 albums with Cliff Burton. It's not necessarily my favorite Metallica album overall, but it's pretty darn close. It's an epic song. It's got multiple tempo changes. There's I don't want to say elements of prog in it. That was more Justice, the next full album after this. But just a crushing riff, killer lyrics, great performance. The band was absolutely at its peak here, and so many people have talked about it. I'm not going to dwell on it, but had Cliff lived, who knows where they would have gone. It wouldn't have been Justice for All, I'm pretty sure. And so anyway, number 9, Master of Puppets, Metallica, great epic title track. Number 8, and this could have been higher too, who knows, AC/DC, Let There Be Rock. Just Chuck Berry on steroids, and it really pays homage to the early pioneers of rock and roll in the best way. And AC/DC does anyway. AC/DC to me is really just Chuck Berry and Little Richard and Bo Diddley and all that sort of music amped up and on steroids anywho. So title track sort of distills everything great about this band. And again, this is one of those where it's not my favorite AC/DC record. It's up there, of course. It's a great album, but it's not my absolute favorite. But this title track, Let There Be Rock, is just thunderous. And I've only ever seen AC/DC live once, and when they play this live, man, the place goes berserk, and rightfully so. So that's number 8. Number 7, from the original lineup, the original band before he went solo, Billion Dollar Babies by Alice Cooper. Just the drumming alone is iconic. And then the fact that he had Donovan, the guy who did Mellow Yellow and Hurdy Gurdy Man, singing vocals. I something about, I think they were in the same building in different studios or something like that, and the lyrics are fantastic on this. This was really the original Alice Cooper group at its peak and its most creative. This is one of my 2 favorite Alice albums. And then the title track alone, it's sort of short and punchy. I don't even think it's 4 minutes long. So short and punchy compared to the previous 3 that I've talked about here. Yeah, number 7, Billion Dollar Babies by the original Alice Cooper Band. Just a great fun track. Number 6, and this is one of my 2 favorite albums by this band. And it's one of those where I bought this and another one. I don't remember which one came first, but they were within months of each other, and I got them at the same age, and so I listened to them ad nauseum. And before I knew of the stuff that came before it, the really big hits, I knew Sabbath Bloody Sabbath by Black Sabbath. And this is one of those where, Tony Iommi, of course, is the riff master general in hard rock and metal. And 2 of his heaviest riffs make up this song. There's, of course, a great multi-layered guitar solo in it. The lyrics are doom and gloom. This was Geezer at his best. Geezer played fantastically in here on bass, Bill Ward on drums. Ozzy's voice, I don't think, got any better in Black Sabbath than this. But you've got the first half of the song that's slow and plodding, and then the guitar solo, and then the second half of the song is even more doom and gloom. It's the second, well, I don't know if it's a full half, but the last part of this song, I think, is the most crushing riff that Tony Iommi ever did. Now, I could have picked a number of title tracks by Black Sabbath that are fantastic, from several different vocalists. But this is the one I'm trying to only have, if it's a band, I'm trying to only have one. Although you'll see there's sort of a little cheating later. But this is the only Sabbath title track. But there are a couple others that could have made it. The point is, Sabbath Bloody Sabbath coming in at 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. Yeah, 6. Yeah. 10, 9, 8, 7. Number 6, Sabbath Bloody Sabbath. And that could be higher too. And once we reach these, going, the top 5 even, just like holy moly. And the second 5 are fantastic too. And one of those might be your number 1. So number 5, I had the privilege of seeing this band, because even though it's really a solo project, it was a full band. Everybody had input. In a little club called the Orbit Room in October of 2000 in Grand Rapids. And they didn't even open the balcony. It was a Sunday night. The ticket sales were not fantastic, but yet the show, this was really Rob Halford's comeback after he left Priest, did Fight, did some industrial stuff that really backfired. And this was his fitting return to form, Resurrection, with the Halford Band. Screaming heavy metal. This is one of my 3 holy triumvirate Halford records. When I introduce people to his music, who may only know a few of the hits, this album, first of all, shows off everything he could do vocally. Second, the opening title track, frenetic, powerful, pure metal, pure, straightforward heavy metal. There's no other way to put it. His voice was in phenomenal shape. It's a very autobiographical tune. And, man, Resurrection by the Halford Band is just absolutely freaking killer. The only album I'm showing, the only record I'm showing, vinyl record, because they're really all albums, they're all collections of music. Um, I had the CD and I gave it to my uncle, and just never I've never bought a replacement CD because I have an OG vinyl pressing here of Burn by Deep Purple. And by this point, when Glenn Hughes came in on bass and co-lead vocals and David Coverdale came in on main lead vocals, that was the third set of singer bassists in 5 years for the band. They had Rod Evans and Nick Simper on the first three records, and then I think was it Concerto for Group and Orchestra or In Rock? I can't remember which one came first. Through Who Do We Think We Are with Roger Glover and Ian Gillan, and then they left, and then we got the voice of rock, Glenn Hughes, and a very young David Coverdale, just in his early to mid-20s here. This is one of my two favorite Deep Purple records to begin with, and then the title track showed that not only could they continue to carry on with Blackmore, Lord, and Pace, and then new bassist and singer, but they were doing it better than they ever had on this title track. So you may disagree, I don't know, maybe you like other albums better, but if you're a Purple fan, you got to admit this is at least nothing short of phenomenal, and it's in my top five title tracks for classic hard rock and heavy metal. Burn by Deep Purple. Now here's where we get into the little bit of cheating that I sort of mentioned. These three are probably my top three of all these that I've picked, and there's not a whole lot I can say that hasn't been said about this album. No More Tears by Ozzy. Kind of a silly cover. It really is. It always has been. But the bass, the slide guitar, the rhythm, the multifaceted presentation of the title track. This to me is Ozzy at his absolute best. This is my favorite Ozzy Osbourne album, and it's easily in my top five Ozzy songs. The title track. It's big. It's epic. It tells a story. The video was actually really awesome back in the early 90s. Oz's voice sounded great here. Zach's playing was great. You had a fantastic band. So number three, No More Tears by Ozzy Osbourne. Absolutely fantastic. And I know it's kind of cheating because, I had Black Sabbath with him singing, but oh well. It's my channel. It's my video. So No More Tears coming in at number three. Number two, this is one of my two or three favorite albums by the band, even though a lot of the stuff from the later years, the last 20 years, was really where I got into them. Everything great about Motorhead is distilled down into Overkill. First of all, the sonic leap that was taken from the recorded debut, which, of course, the technical debut was On Parole, which got shelved and not released until 4 years later when the record company could cash in. And then the self-titled album in 77. But the sonic leap from the self-titled album to this album, just unbelievable. The double kick drum that Filthy Taylor had, the drum sound on it. Lemmy's Rickenbacker was really unrestrained for the first time. Fast Eddie Clarke's guitar playing was unhinged on the solos here. The only way to feel the noise is when it's good and loud. And that's the opening line to the song and to the album. And, Motorhead closed every show for decades with this song. And it was, with the exception of when Brian Robertson was in the band and wouldn't play it, it was played at just about every show as well. This stayed, I had a 3-disc player that I bought down at ABC when I was in high school. And I'm sorry for the tangent here. Brings up good memories, though. I had a 3-disc player that I had bought at ABC Warehouse in Holland, Michigan. It wasn't even the one I really wanted, but a friend of mine named Zach Dietrich, who has been gone from us. It'll be 21 years next month. Um, he was working there, and they got commission, and he basically talked me into spending my money on this 3-disc player. This stayed in the third slot, which was actually the top one. So it went 1, 2, 3 for a good couple of years. I never took this out after I got this particular CD at a big mall in Benton Harbor when we were on a choir trip on a Sunday afternoon down to our choir director's hometown of Waterville, Michigan, to sing at a homecoming for her. And we were in a mall, and they had this, and I'm like, oh, I don't have that one. I better grab it. And I was a junior in high school, and so this stayed in there for years. That's how much I love this album and this title track. So everything great about Motorhead is found on Overkill. So what could be number one? It's at this point, if you know me, it's rather predictable. It's Painkiller by Judas Priest. And again, a bit of a cheat, having Rob Halford on here twice. I don't give a shit, because this was not just a return to form, because they had been the metal gods, and then, I actually liked the Turbo album, but at the time it was not very popular. People really dumped on it because it was synth heavy. And then they did Ram It Down, which was a little heavier, but there was a horrendous cover, which everybody picks on, and I'm going to pile on with it, of Johnny Be Good. I think it was for a movie soundtrack, and then it ended up on the album. Forgive me, I'm a little parched. And so, musically, in the eyes of the public, Priest had lost its way a little bit. Enter Scott Travis on drums from the band Racer X. The most molten lava guitar sound that the band has ever had is on this album, and the title track alone makes them legends. This is, it's funny, they had this on Metal Gods 10 years before on British Steel. This is where they regained the title. This is what cemented them as the Metal Gods. And of course, Halford would leave after this, big misunderstanding. He originally just wanted a little break, ended up being gone for over a decade, blah, blah, blah. It's 6-ish minutes of just pure heavy metal at its absolute finest. I think everything that defines classic hard rock and metal is not only on this album, but the title track. And, to this day, when Priest plays Painkiller live, and they have a different lineup now than on this. Both guitar players are gone, and Andy Sneap and Richie Faulkner are the touring guitarists. They do it faithfully. They do it as they should. You still get a full Priest show, even though it's two different guitar players. This song still brings down the house every single time. It's still the one. I think they end the main set with it, and then they do the encores. I just saw them last year, not even a year ago, on May the 4th on Star Wars Day in Kalamazoo at Wing Stadium, and holy shit, was it phenomenal. And so, Painkiller, Judas Priest, my number one classic heavy metal and hard rock song of all time. Let me know in the comments what yours are. Maybe you only have 5, maybe you have 20. I don't know, but I look forward to hearing from you. I look forward to some healthy discussion, and if there's disagreement, some debate. Thank you for your kind attention. I appreciate it more than you know. And hey, let me know in the comments, and I look forward to hearing from you. And hopefully it won't be too long before we talk again. Take care.